Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. My name is Brianna, this is Coffee, Books, and Bullet Journals, and I'm gonna do my February book haul. So, once upon a time, I said that I wasn't going to do book hauls, or that I was going to rein in my book buying, or something like that. I failed. Miserably. So I have 30 books here to talk about today. Anyways, the good news is the book of the month books are the only ones I paid full price for. So there's that. So let's talk about some stuff. I have a book outlet order. I have book of the month, which was 3 books. I have multiple thrift store finds. All right, so I think we should just dive into it, and yeah, we'll do that. All right, so I'm gonna start with actually a gift. So I was part of Valentine's. I didn't actually complete any of the challenges or do the bingo board or anything like that, but I did participate in the Bookish Cupid, and her name was Jasmine, was my Bookish Cupid, and I don't remember her Twitter. I'll link it down below, and if she has a YouTube account, I will link that down below too. I don't remember if she does or not. But I unboxed this on day 7 of my Contemporary-a-thon, so you may have already seen this. But she got me Sadie by Courtney Summers. This was really on my radar, and I am so excited about it. So we're in the middle of Thriller-a-thon, and I'm kind of debating putting it up, putting this up on my TBR. But I already have so much stuff that I want to read and listen to, so, well, we'll see. So, anyways, that was my gift, my Bookish Cupid gift, and I, hit the nail on the head. So, I'm very excited about this. Let's go ahead and do Book of the Month. And actually, I've been good. I have already, of the 3 books, I've finished 2 of them. So, I mean, at least I'm reading the books I'm buying, right? So I read this first one during Contemporary-a-thon, so you probably have already seen this, but that was On the Come Up by Angie Thomas. This was Angie Thomas's sophomore novel, and while it was not The Hate U Give, it was still so good, and it still made you think. It made you discover some things that maybe you don't think about on a daily basis. So, fabulous book, and I loved it. The next book I actually just finished last night, I believe, and that was An Anonymous Girl by Greer Hendricks and Sarah Pekkanen. This is so worth the hype. This is potentially my favorite thriller. Definitely my favorite thriller I've read this year. Yeah, it was so good, and it was kept you on the edge of your seat. I'm a sucker for female stalkers, so yeah, I very much recommend this book. It's definitely lived up to the hype. I am excited to pick up The Wife Between Us. Is that what it's called? Yeah. The Wife Between Us. I'm very excited to pick up The Wife Between Us and see if it's different, how it, because I've heard really good things about that one too. So yeah, highly recommend this book, and I'm really glad I finally got to pick it up. And then the other one that I have not finished yet, but I definitely will read it in the near future, and that is An Absolutely Remarkable Thing by Hank Green. I have heard such good things about this. I also like the fact that the person, the protagonist, is on YouTube, and so I don't know, I might be able to relate to her a little bit. So there you go. I don't know a whole lot about it. I know it's science fiction-y sort of thing, and kind of very into that right now, so I'm excited about that. I think the next thing I will do is my book outlet order, and then I will do the thrift store, because there's a lot of those. Okay, so I did pick up several things at on book outlet, and they ended up almost all being hardcover. A lot of the ones that I thought were paperback ended up being hardcover, so I'm excited about that. So the first one was this was a paperback, Stephen King, The Long Walk. I heard Natasha talking about this one a couple of months ago, and the premise just really intrigued me, and it's not a huge book. I don't know a whole lot about this, but it's basically about a bunch of people that basically have to keep walking at a certain pace or they get shot. or something like that. Must keep a steady pace of 4 miles per hour without stopping, and the winner being awarded a prize. So it sounds interesting. I prefer the more dystopian type books that Stephen King writes. Granted, I have not read Stephen King, but like those just appeal to me more. Now I have another Stephen King in here that I'm pretty sure is a horror, more horror than dystopian or thriller. Take that with a grain of salt. I do want to try to get out of my comfort zone. My comfort zone is like fluffy contemporary, so I'm trying to, you know, read new things, try new things, and I think that Stephen King might be where I start. Okay, the next one. Speaking of out of my comfort zone, this is a book that is praised on BookTube. Like, everyone loves it. It's a very, not a book I would normally pick up, and that's why I think I hesitated to pick it up for so long, but it's one of those books that, like, I wasn't going to pay full price for, but I wanted to kind of see what the hype was. And that is Strange the Dreamer by Laini Taylor. This is a beautiful, beautiful book. And again, it's hardcover. I thought it was going to be a paperback, which I was like, oh, that's fine. Like, if I end up liking it, I can always like buy the fancy edition. But the naked cover is really pretty. It has the dragonfly on it, or the moth, or whatever it is. I don't know. Like, I literally know nothing about this book. But I've heard such amazing things about it, and so I thought, like, I have to try it. I have to try it. Like, if I don't like it, I don't like it. I paid $5. The next book I picked up was a paperback. It was much smaller paperback than I kind of would have liked, and not the same cover that I would have wanted. But that was The Ocean at the End of the Lane by Neil Gaiman. I've read Neverwhere, and then I have Coraline, and now this one. And the other book that I really want from him is Norse Mythology and Stardust. Those are the other two that I would really like to own. I've watched the movie of Stardust. I haven't read the book, but no idea what this is about at all. But Neil Gaiman's writing is so beautiful. I love listening to his books on audio because he's the one that narrates it. And yeah, like, again, if it's on Book Outlet and it's something that, like, I'm semi-interested in, I don't mind spending the money because it's not that much. Like, it's not that expensive. And I know that's still, like, a terrible thing to, like, I shouldn't be thinking that way, but I do. And it's one of those things that, like, I can't afford it. So I'm not going to, like, justify my book buying habits to the internet. I like to collect books. Sorry. I know that, like, the whole, like, KonMari and, like, trying to minimize your actual physical books, like, became a huge thing in the past, like, a month or two. And you know what? Yes, like, if that's how you feel and that's what you want to do, more power to you. That's not what I'm doing. And I'm okay with that. So I am, I mean, I have an entire box here of books that I need to take to unhaul, and these are, like, on top of the ones that I already did my unhaul video. Like, I am getting rid of books that I don't want to read, but, or that I read and I didn't like. But at the same time, I'm not going to feel bad about buying books. So anyways, that's my soapbox. I'm going to get off of it now, spill the tea a little. I try not to, like, incite drama on this channel, but I just felt like I needed to say that. So all right, so the next two books were recommendations from Kayla at Books and Lala. She did this video on overly specific book recommendations on, like, space books, and it was based off of this book, and it was like, and then other ones around it. So this one is Midnight at the Electric, and it's a sci-fi, young adult sci-fi that takes place in, like, 3 different time zones. England 1919, Oklahoma 1934, and Kansas 2065. And it's it's about this girl who is chosen to go live on Mars, basically. And so there's, again, not a whole lot of information that I know about this. I'm in this, like, really, like, big sci-fi mood right now. I've been watching a lot of sci-fi on TV, and then I've been, like, wanting to read about that. So then I was like, well, I want something, like, I still need to ingest that and consume that topic. And so I found this on Book Outlet, and then after Kayla had talked about it, and then the other one was like recommended because you liked this or because you purchased this one. This one is also like, you might like this one, and that is The Final Six by Alexandra Monier. Sure, yeah. Again, like, first off, this picture is just like, this cover is gorgeous, and it is again about a few people, a couple of teenagers that are at the International Space Training Camp. I think this one is about them traveling to Jupiter's moon. So that's, I mean, a little bit different, but pretty much the same premise. Again, I'm trying to get out of my comfort zone and just read a little bit more. So I like rearrange my bookshelves, and I literally have 6 shelves of contemporary and thrillers, and then more like overflowing onto this. So like, I needed some other things so that I'm not always reading basically the same thing. The next book was more just like of an impulse buy, and not something that like I will read cover to cover, but just as like a reference. It looks cool. I will probably use it in Instagram pictures and other things. And that is A Brief History of Time Lords. I am a huge Whovian. I love Doctor Who. I have watched it since I was in college, and we won't talk about the current Doctor, but you know, everyone else is perfect. And this is basically just kind of like a reference guide of like the companions. It has some really cool illustrations. So it's more of like just a, I don't know, like, I don't want to say coffee table book, but I mean, like, that's really cool, right? So anyways, again, not something that I might read cover to cover, but I still really liked it, and it looked really cool, and yeah. Okay, the next book, I've been on a Frederick Bachman kick. I read A Man Called Uva, which is in this somewhere, because I bought it this month. I have a couple of other ones from him, and then the one that like I'm still hunting for is Beartown. That one's not on Book Outlet, but book 2 is, which is confusing. So this is Us Against You, which is the sequel to Beartown. So like, obviously I won't be picking this one up right now, but I couldn't pass this up since I'm really loving Frederick Bachman's work, and I didn't want to like miss out on how cheap this was, especially for a hardcover book. So I'm excited. I definitely want to pick up Beartown. I know it's on audio, so I can at least listen to it and then could read the second one, but for some reason Beartown is not on Book Outlet. I don't know. Okay, and the last book that I bought on Book Outlet was a thriller, and that was Anatomy of a Scandal by Sarah Vaughan. This is like a domestic thriller with like a woman who's like, everything's in order, her life is neat and tidy, and then her husband comes home and like confesses something, and like everything gets turned upside down, and you know, she doesn't like, you know, who is this man? He's not the person I married, blah 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 blah. So I love domestic thrillers. They're very intriguing. It's one of those things that's like slice of life, but like turned on its head. And that's another one that I kind of want to add to Thriller-a-thon, but like at the same time I'd really like to read the books that I had on my shelf for a really long time. So, all right, so moving on to thrift store. So we have several. We have this thrift store chain in Utah called Deseret Industries, and it's always hit or miss, but I have been like on a hit roll for the last like month or so, because thrift stores are great right now because of the Netflix show that came out for the KonMari and the tidying up with Marie Kondo. So the thing is that everyone else is getting rid of books, so like I picked them up because I could. So some of these books are like really expensive, not expensive as in collector's type edition, but like if I were to buy these at Barnes & Noble, they would be like easily $10 to $20. So like the fact that I'm buying them for $1, I like the challenge and the thrill of like finding something at a thrift shop for $1 that's normally a $20 book. I love doing that. So some of them are not. Some of them aren't in like greatest condition, but like I wanted those books. All right, so the first things, and some of these I've shown in vlogs before, so like you may have seen these before, but I got Alex and Eliza and Love and War by Melissa De La Cruz. This is a young adult retelling of Alexander Hamilton. And Alex and Eliza was a book that when it came out, when I was like kind of new to BookTube, I really wanted to read this book. And I couldn't find it anywhere. My library had like a 3-month hold on it. No, like Book Outlet didn't have it. I couldn't find it on like Amazon, and on Barnes & Noble was just super expensive. So I didn't really want to pay like full price for a book I wasn't sure I was going to like. So I found these. They were like, I already took the price tag off, but like maybe $2. So I couldn't pass it up. They are beautiful sitting on your shelf. Like, that's beautiful. All right, the next book I picked up was The Book Thief by Marcus Zusak. I've heard mixed things about this book, but mostly good things. So it's a World War II historical fiction about, I want to say it's about a girl who like finds a book, and then like her life has changed because of like reading and being able to, like, she steals books and is able to like consume it, and in World War II, like, that's the only way she was able to be able to read. So I don't know, I've heard mixed things and I'm excited about it eventually. I'm a very seasonal reader, I've noticed, and I want to read certain genres at certain times of the year. Right now, not a historical fiction mood. Just not. But I will be. Like late spring was where I was last year, was when I wanted to read a whole bunch of historical fiction, so we shall see. The next book I picked up was The Silkworm by Robert Galbraith, otherwise known as J.K. Rowling. I have The Cuckoo's Calling, and I never really actually got around to finishing it. I started it, but then like readathons happened and I had to like put it down. But again, I found this, it's one of those things that, like, if I end up liking The Cuckoo's Calling, I would like to have the whole set in the hardback edition, which is what I have Cuckoo's Calling in. So, like, these just look really cool right next to each other. So, it's like, again, like, it was one of those things that it's like, I don't want to pass this up. Like, if I would have just seen it in paperback, wouldn't have picked it up. In fact, I did see it in paperback at the same time, and I like kept going. I was like, well, if I'm gonna have the whole set, I want them to match. But then, like, as I was browsing the shelves, I found it in hardback, and like they match, they're perfect. Yeah. So, all right. So this was the other Stephen King that I talked about. That's probably more horror than thriller. It is the sequel to The Shining, which I have not read yet, but want to, because it's Kylie's favorite book, and so like I feel like, you know, like we're good friends, like I feel like I should read her favorite book. I don't know. So anyways, that is Dr. Sleep by Stephen King. First off, like, the cover is just fascinating, and it just makes me want to pick up this book. I have no idea what it's about, like, not a clue, but it's really cool looking. Okay, the next book I picked up was another historical fiction, and that is What We Become, and this is a historical romance, and it takes place around the Cold War, I believe. Well, it's several time periods. So it starts in like 1928, where these two people meet, and then they get torn apart, and then in 1937 they get back together, and they reunite, and they find each other again, and then again I think they run into each other again during the Cold War. It sounds very interesting. I kind of like those, like, it's not really a second chance, it's more of like, I don't know, like being able to like find them again. Does that make sense? And it looked really pretty. I'm doing terrible at this book haul. I'm sorry, guys. I'm really sorry. I'm excited to read this. This actually might be one that I pick up if I participate in the Buzzword Readathon this year, because I thought, like, who, what, when, where, why, how. I should have a lot of books about that, right? Like, with that word in the title somewhere. And this is one of two. Okay, the next book that I picked up, it was just kind of more of a whim, and it is Selected Writings on Family, Animals, and Life from the Philadelphia Inquirer, and it is called Bad Dogs Have More Fun. And again, you know I love dogs, so this was just something that I wanted to pick up and just kind of peruse as I, you know, go through if I need a pick-me-up. And I mean, like, look how cute he is. He's like, oh. So, I will pick up anything that has a dog in it, you know this. Okay, so at my thrift store, there are, they don't follow the rules, apparently. Also, there's somebody in northern Utah that has access to ARCs. Old ARCs, I guess, because I found a couple, and this is not the first time I found them at this one. So I got Starry Eyes by Jen Bennett. Julie from Pages and Pens loves this book, and I already have An Anatomical Shape of a Heart by Jen Bennett, and so this is one that was like on my radar. I wanted to read it, and so when I found it, I was like, "Whoa, yes, please!" This is it's a young adult contemporary. I don't know a ton about it, but I think this is the one where like the two families are like rivals or something like that. Like this one says the modern day California version of the Montagues and Capulets. So there's like that, and then like the two children of those two families fall in love. So there's like that forbidden young adult romance. All right, and the next one that I found was, and this isn't the correct cover, it's the art cover, but it's I'll Give You the Sun by Jandy Nelson. And this one is about two twins. I don't know a whole lot about it, but this was one that was like really big on BookTube last year, I believe. And again, was on my radar. And if I'm going to find something for less than $1, also, if you're not supposed to sell ARCs, but they did. All right, the next book that I picked up, also from Jandy Nelson, is The Sky is Everywhere. And this book deals with two girls who are sisters, and then one of the sisters dies. And so it's just a book about loss and grief and trying to not move on with your life, but move forward. And I remember this being talked about a lot last year on BookTube. I have a lot of YA here, but I've read some YA lately that have been really good, especially when they're really hard-hitting books. And so I'm really hoping that this one will also like kind of hit that mark. Also YA, I think this is my, oh no, one more YA after this. All right, so I got Eleanor and Park by Rainbow Rowell. I already have Fangirl, haven't read it. Now I had to do a little bit of work to this one because it had library binding on it, and so it had like that clear plastic, and I don't like it. So I like cut it off, basically. But this is one that I think most people like see as her best work. So I'm excited about this. This was one that I definitely wanted to read last year. I didn't get to just because I couldn't find it. And then the last YA that I have is An Abundance of Catherines by John Green. I have just been trying to collect John Green as I go along. I have several of his works. I have read several of his works. This one actually I haven't read. But yeah, it's just one of those things that like, I don't know, you kind of have to... They're good, like, I don't know how to put this, but they're good like slumpy books because they're well written, but they're not like really in depth and hard hitting. So you can, they have serious topics. So they're really good for like just kind of getting out of a slump, which is why I like having them. All right, we're almost done. Almost. The next book I picked up was Counting Stars by Michelle Page Holmes. I think this is an indie published book because it's not super like it's one of those like bigger paperbacks. So this is about a man who has terminal cancer. His wife died in a car accident, I believe, and he is a father. So basically he is trying to find a woman to like be the mother of his children before he dies. So it's definitely one of those like hard-hitting contemporaries. All right, the next book I picked up was Size 12 is Not Fat by Meg Cabot. I've read a couple of things by Meg Cabot before, and this I think is like a murder mystery from what it sounds like. It's about a woman who used to be a pop idol and lost her recording act and is now size 12, which is the average size for an American woman. And her new job as an assistant dorm director until the dead body of a female student shows up. So a little bit of murder mystery might be kind of fun. I don't know, kind of reminds me of like maybe not quite cozy mystery, but kind of on that vibe. All right, I'm gonna try to go really fast. I've got 4 more books, so I'm gonna try to speed through these because they're pretty well known. So the first one is The Glass Castle by Jeanette Walls. This is a memoir that was definitely hyped on BookTube in the last year or two, and I've really been into memoirs since reading Educated, and that one is one of those ones that like they say like if you like Educated you'll like this one and vice versa, so I definitely want to pick that one up. And then the next one is Still Alice by Lisa Genova. And so there's like still a sticker on it. And this is about a woman who is a psychology professor at Harvard, I believe. But then she has, I want to say she gets dementia or something like that. It doesn't say what it was, but it just says a tragic diagnosis. I don't really remember. I remember it being a movie, but I didn't watch it, so. All right, then the last two books are also Frederick Bachman books, and I read one, and I'm still gonna read the other one. So this one is A Man Called Ova. I read this during Contemporary-a-thon and absolutely loved it, and this is kind of what made me fall in love with Frederick Bachman and his writing. This is about a grumpy old man who just kind of wants to die, and he tries to commit suicide multiple times, and every single time a neighbor or a reporter or somebody shows up at his door and needs help, and he feels obligated to help them. So yeah, it was really, really good, and I loved the ending of it. It was so sweet. It's one of those like heartwarming and heart-wrenching books all at the same time. And then this one is My Grandmother Asked Me to Tell You She's Sorry. I don't remember much about this, but this is about like a young girl who her grandmother has all these stories, and then like when she dies, she leaves behind a series of letters, and Elsa's greatest adventure begins. Her grandmother instructions lead her to an apartment building full of misfits, monsters, attack dogs, and old cronies, but also to the truth about fairy tales and kingdoms and a grandmother like no other. So this one's probably gonna make me cry, because I lost my grandmother several years ago, and I was very close with her. And so now I'm like, gonna start tearing up at the end of this video. Glad that was the end. So yeah, when I do read that, I'm probably gonna cry. Like, not gonna lie there. So anyways, I apologize for the length of this video. If you are new here and you have not yet subscribed, there's a little red button that you can do so down below the video. And all of the links to my social medias are in the description below if you'd like to be my friend on any other platform. Let me know about any of these books that you have read or ones that I should pick up right away. And I will talk to you in my next video. Have a great day. Bye.